From the IMTV Wave Channel 5 studio at Greenville Senior High School, home of the Greenville Green Wave, the Greenville Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library proudly presents Never Stop Serving. And now, your host, Mike Maloney.
Good morning, everybody. Here we are back at Greenville High School as always. Want to say a big thank you to IMTV. We're wrapping up our season. As we're wrapping up our season, stay tuned to our YouTube page because we have a lot of stuff on there. Particularly if you remember Cassie Barlow at the beginning of the season, we had her on the show. She's written a book with Sue Hill Norad, and they've written a book, and actually hopefully I have a picture here, we'll show it to you right here. They've written a book, and we have their book signing and presentation there on there also. Please check that out. There's other things that they'll be checking out here shortly too. Ed Damron gave us a fantastic rendition of what his service was, so please check that out. And we also, our Gold Star families, Jim and Leslie Groves, fantastic story there. If you haven't seen that, go back there and check that out. So a lot of great videos today to check out on our YouTube channel, so please check them all out, and please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Around the horn there, we want to say May 28th, the 9th annual Gold Star Wives at the Miami Valley chapter. So please check that out and pay honor to their service and their sacrifice. And then on the 24th of June, we have a motorcycle ride for veterans by the Miami Valley History Museum. And then 3rd District Ohio VFW is having a summer picnic July 8th at their evening post. It's actually in Fairborn, but please check that out also. It's going to be an all-day event. They're going to have all kinds of great things going on there. And then the VFW here in Greenville's got a poker run July 29th. Before that is the National Convention down in New Orleans, where our guy from Ohio, Keith Harmon, is going to take over National Command of the VFW. We hope to be down there, and then we're coming back to this poker run. And then later on, the Piqua VFW Post has a VFW cruise-in also, so feel free to check that out. And then, of course, we wrap up the year on Veterans Day with our own very own talent show, the third Rock of Ages talent show. It's always fun. If you haven't seen those last two, they're on our YouTube page also. All right, done with the announcements now. Always have good examples of Never Stop Serving. This gentleman right next to me is no exception. Please help me welcome Michael White. Mr. White, I should call you Sergeant Major White, but we'll get to that. Please tell everybody your name, rank, social security number, what you've done, where you grew up, your hometown, all about your parents, your family, where you went to school, and about your military service.
Ooh, you're asking an awful lot of me.
You can.
Okay. Let's see. Where do I start? I retired as Command Sergeant Major from the United States Army and the Michigan National Guard in January of 2012.
Go back.
I'm going back. I'm going back. I was born in San Antonio, Texas in September of 1965. And was the son of an Army officer, so in essence an Army brat. Moved to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was at Fort Benning, Georgia as a youngster. And those are pretty much the only areas that I remember, growing up before my dad finally got out of the service.
What did he do for the service?
He was a Special Forces communications officer, and did spend some time over in Thailand and Vietnam. He came back, I can't remember what year, I want to say it was 1970, so he was actually in Vietnam from 69 to 70. Came back, and of course the downsizing of the military after any major conflict, and he got caught up in the downsizing. Got out of the service, and we moved to Michigan, which is where he was born and raised, was Michigan. So by moving to Michigan, that's where I ended up growing up. Flint, Michigan, Grand Blanc, just north of Detroit area. Joined the Army right out of high school, 1982-83 time frame.
High school was the name?
Grand Blanc High School is where I graduated from, but my last year was actually at Lake Orion High School, is where I actually went to as my senior year. Excuse me. Joined the military, went to Fort Benning to become an infantryman. Was basic AIT, and then right to jump school. I was part of what we call.
What year was this?
This was 82-83 time frame.
82-83, okay.
Yeah. Went to jump school, and my first duty station was Fort Bragg, North Carolina. In fact, I got to jump into my first duty station, which was kind of a unique event. I was part of a cohort unit, and that was a excuse me, a relatively newer concept where the unit goes to basic training, to AIT, and then to, subsequently, in this case, jump school, and then we all ended up as a unit from basic training as a company with the 82nd Airborne Division. I was with Alpha Company, 3rd of 325 Infantry, Airborne, stationed at Fort Bragg.
Let me stop you for a second. What you think of that program? That was a popular deal in the 80s. We had one of the platoons in my basic, and AIT
was a cohort.
And they were headed to Germany together, the whole platoon. What do you think of that?
It had its positives and its negatives. As I look back on it now, being a wiser, more experienced individual, the positives were we got to know each other very, very well. So our training, going through basic training, going through the AIT or the infantry training, so to speak, and then to jump school, we knew who we were, who was left and right of us.
Right.
The problem was we were all privates, every single one of us.
Yeah.
So in the process, the cadre are non-commissioned officers, the cadre of the unit, so to speak. They really had a difficult time in choosing who was going to receive promotions faster than the other soldiers. And of course, some of the other soldiers in that process felt like they were slighted by, by that.
Yeah.
So it had its positives and its negatives. Again, positive being, one unit, they know everyone. The negative was, again, going back to it, there was a lot of infighting amongst the soldiers, just based upon the fact that we were all the same pay grades, from E1 through E4.
Right. So at 1 month, a promotion to E2 would come up for 2, and you've got a platoon.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I get it, yeah.
So
all right. So now we're in basic. Go ahead.
So from basic to jump school, right to Fort Bragg. Arrived at Fort Bragg about 2.5 weeks after Grenada had finally wrapped up and completed their the operation. I can't remember what the operation's name is now. So as we're getting there, we're a brand new company with this unit, and the rest of the battalion has all just come back from Grenada. So of course, they're all a bit more wiser and more experienced than a brand new company of paratroopers, so to speak. From Fort Bragg, as the entire company was then shipped to Italy, and we became 4th of the 325 over in Italy, in Vicenza. And that's where, and the intent was that we were going to go over for 18 months as a unit and then redeploy back to Fort Bragg, I had a bad jump while I was stationed over there and jumped into Grafenwehr, Germany, and hurt my back pretty bad. And so instead of me going back with that cohort unit, I was shipped off to Germany. And I spent 4.5 years in Germany in a, how do I explain this? It's an infantry unit, but it was attached to a field artillery brigade. That field artillery brigade was actually a Pershing missile brigade, or a Pershing missile command, really. And our infantry battalion was tasked to guard Pershing missiles.
Sure.
And I did for 3.5, almost 4 years.
Watch the grass grow, didn't you?
Watch the grass grow. Yep, watch the grass grow. And from time to time, of course, we had some infantry training, but in general, it was you go up to a nuclear site, and we'd spend 30 days on a nuclear site. Watching the grass grow and making sure that the Russians didn't jump in and try to secure those sites.
That's all we did was watch the
that
grass
was the good news.
Yeah.
So, in 1989, came back to the United States and was assigned to the 1st Infantry Division, Fort Riley, Kansas. I was at that time I was a young sergeant. I wasn't, I had a little bit of time in grade, but not a lot of time in grade. Got to my unit and was shortly thereafter sent to Bradley Fighting Vehicle Master Gunner School. While I was in Master Gunner School,
where was that at?
That was at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
And that was how many months was that? Was that an 8-month program? I can't remember. I want to say it was an 8-month program. It was a pretty significant course to go through. And while I was there, Saddam Hussein thought that he wanted Kuwait more than Kuwait wanted it, and so he took it. And I came back to, I completed the course and went back to Fort Riley, and 2 months later I was sitting in the desert of Saudi Arabia, Operation Desert Shield. And we sat there for, I can't remember how many months. I want to say it was about 4 or 5 months out in the desert, just kind of twiddling our thumbs and practicing for our invasion of Iraq and Kuwait. And on February 24th of 1990? 91. We crossed over the berm and went up into Iraq. Again, with the 1st Infantry Division, I was with 5th Battalion, 16th Infantry. I can't remember which brigade that was. Now that I think back upon it, I'd have to go back and look at my military records to actually know specifically what brigade we were attached to. But we were engaged in the Battle of 73 Easting, and then subsequently we pushed through the 2nd ACR on the 3rd night of our engagement. We did what they call a passage of lines at night, battalion-sized element during the middle of a firefight, and then pushed in and hit the Tawakana Republican Guard unit and continued to push into Kuwait. So came back from Desert Storm, which at that point it was considered Desert Storm.
Did you take a couple prisoners?
Did I take a couple prisoners? Probably about 375 prisoners. Yeah.
All about prisoners.
It was all about prisoners,
Yeah.
and movement of the massive Iraqi army surrender.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we got engaged, but typically speaking, they didn't want to be there, and we were more than happy to roll through them, and
They were just waiting for us to show up.
they were waiting for us to show up. Came back from Desert Storm, and went back to Fort Riley. About this time, I was looking, it was getting time, in my opinion, to find a new home. And the battalion had other thoughts about me and wanted to keep me there. And I said, you know, if I can't go to Korea, which is really where I wanted to go at that point in time, then I elected to get out of the active component, and I got out of the active component and went to the Michigan National Guard a month later. So I arrived at back in Michigan, back in my home state. Was there with the Michigan Army National Guard for about a year, and then moved out to Washington State to eventually link up with my wife now, and because she was already living out in Washington State. And I joined the Washington Army National Guard. Was with them for 8 years. My civilian job, I worked for Geico Insurance. They moved me to Colorado, and so I ended up going to the Colorado National Guard for about 4 years. From there, Geico moved me again, and this is the reason why I am now in Dayton, Ohio. Tried to join the Ohio Army National Guard, and they said we don't have a spot for an E8, so I went back to Michigan and asked if they had a position, and they did. So they took me in as an operations NCO with the 46th MP Command up in Michigan. I was there for
MPs, huh?
I was there for about maybe a year, and was selected to be Command Sergeant Major for the 1st Squadron of the 126th Cavalry Regiment, which was located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I was put in charge of about 750 soldiers as the Command Sergeant Major. And right at about the same time that I was selected, we were also alerted for deployment to Operation Iraqi Freedom, which was in 2007 is when we were alerted. And we deployed to Iraq in 2008. And I was in Iraq from 2008 to 2009, leading CAV Squadron, conducting detainee operations and convoy security.
You know, where were you stationed?
We were staging in and out of Camp Cedar, which is just south of Nasiriyah in Balad Air Base. Right. And we also staged in and out of Camp Virginia, which was in Kuwait. So we were convoying and moving logistics back and forth between Kuwait and up into Iraq. So spent a year over there, came back, and spent another couple of years getting the unit prepped and ready to go to Afghanistan. We were alerted to go to Afghanistan, and I recognized that at that point in time I was probably getting a little bit too old to keep up with the youngsters, and I said, it's about time for me to call it quits, and retired in, again, January of 2012.
Yeah. People don't realize that, but you're kind of, I mean, you're not as famous as an NFL player, but in the military, that's how the age kind of works, because, you know, you get up there in that age, you're a veteran, and you're just older.
It catches up to you.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, catches up to you quick. It does.
Yeah.
So, 31 years is the amount of time in uniform, active duty and National Guard, and I kind of like it on this side of the uniform now.
Yes, I agree, Sergeant Major. I like it better on this side too. Very much appreciate your service. That's just amazing. That's an amazing resume. And I know we were talking earlier that there's a video. You were at Ford Field.
Ford Field.
Ford Field during the Lions game.
During the Lions game against the Washington Redskins. And
what happened? Let's take a look at it here. Let's see. We're going to show it here. Go ahead and. So this is at halftime?
This is right at the beginning, or Right at the beginning of the third quarter. So yeah, yep.
There you are.
There I am.
Look at that gun go-getter. That's good. They didn't throw you a football or anything, did they?
When it was all said and done, they did.
That's really nice. That's really. How did they find you to honor you like that?
The liaison for the Hometown Heroes program for the Detroit Lions was one of my soldiers when he was a specialist, years ago at this point. So he called me up and said, "Hey, I've got an opportunity for you to present yourself to roughly 70,000 screaming people." And
what about the big screen and all?
Yeah. And
that's fantastic.
Got the
That's fantastic that they did that for you. I just love it when they do that. I said you're a good candidate for never stop serving, and I already know the answer to this. What do you do now? Man, now that you're out, what do you do for the community now?
I am I'm a very active member in the American Legion.
That's where we met?
Which is where the two of us met.
You're an officer now, right?
I am an officer, the second vice commander for the Englewood Post 707, American Legion. 707. And I am also a life member of the VFW Hall, or VFW. My station is Union, Ohio.
Right.
Nice little post.
Phyllis Gannon is the commander of that post.
Yes.
She's also the 3rd district commander right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, she's coming out. Somebody else is coming in. She was.
Okay.
So it's a nice little post.
Yep, it really is.
Yeah.
So.
And I got to give something else away. What are you doing on Memorial Day?
Okay. Memorial Day, I've been given the honor to speak at the. Actually, it's Northmont High School. There is a military memorial site just behind Northmont High School, and I've been given the opportunity to speak in front of however many people show up about Memorial Day and what it means to us as veterans. I'll be in full uniform. And it's a pretty significant speech that's been generated for this.
What time and when is it?
The 27th of May, which is actually Saturday. It's not actually Memorial Day.
Right, Saturday.
And the event starts at 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 in the morning. 9 a.m. We're going to try to be there. We'll see. We look forward to that. And that's another honor. I think that's really nice that they do that. One other thing we talked about that I definitely want to talk about before I let you go is you made a trip to Michigan and you were sending me back all these fantastic pictures. Mm-hmm. One of them that stuck to me was Colonel Kettles, Medal of Honor winner, and you also talked about the museum up there.
Yes.
Please tell us about that.
The Michigan Military and Space Museum is a venture that was started, I want to say, about 17 or 18 years ago, and it's growing rapidly. What's interesting about this museum is it's not a museum of, quote, war artifacts, end quote. It is a museum of people. And what I mean by that is individuals that have served in the military. Their uniforms are presented, their equipment, things of that nature that they have actually had in their possession is presented, and the displays are about the service person and the veteran as opposed to the campaigns, whatever the case may be. Really, really interesting museum. Would be really neat to try and do something like that for the state of Ohio.
Ever since you told me that, we would definitely want to try to link up with them.
Yeah,
go up there and see what they have.
Very, very unique museum. They also honor the astronauts from the state of Michigan, and there's a few of them. Of course, none of them as famous as the astronauts.
We're going to talk about Ohio.
We have in Ohio, but
John Glenn, Neil Armstrong.
Yeah. So, you know, but it is. It's a neat museum. The event that I attended was to honor Lieutenant Colonel now. He was major at the time.
We have a picture here. We're going to show that picture. Put that picture up there.
And this gentleman, in a nutshell, saved the lives of about 44 people during Vietnam. He was not awarded his medal until July of 2016, which was quite interesting. So 50 years later,
right.
He was awarded the medal, and he had been awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Distinguished Service Cross for the actions that he had conducted back during that time frame. But it was upgraded to Medal of Honor, and the Michigan Military and Space Museum held an event to honor him, along with another Medal of Honor recipient. We never call them winners. You don't win a Medal of Honor. You earn a Medal of Honor. You don't win it. They're recipients. So I had the opportunity to meet two Medal of Honor recipients that evening. I also got the opportunity to meet some Tuskegee Airmen, very unique group of individuals. I also got to meet an individual by the name of Colonel Odell. I don't remember his first name off the top of my head. He was a prisoner of war in the Hanoi Hilton for 5.5 years. So it was a very humbling event, to say the least.
And these guys all came to this event. They live in Michigan somewhere?
The Tuskegee Airmen don't necessarily live in Michigan, but they attended the event. The two Medal of Honor recipients and the prisoner of war are all Michiganders.
Oh yeah, we definitely have to make a field trip up there.
Yeah, very
check that out.
Very neat event.
Yeah, that is something. That is really something. Well, hey, thank you. What did we miss?
Couldn't say much more other than 31 years of service, and glad I did it. Wouldn't change it for the world, and am honored to have been able to serve this country.
Yeah, and it's an honor to have you in here, Sergeant Major. It's an honor that you did 31 years of service for your country. Not done. He just took up an officer position in the American Legion at 707 there in Englewood. And I know he's going to do great things. He's been doing great things. It's been an honor to talk to you. It's nice that we're friends.
Thanks, Sergeant. Appreciate it.
And thank you so much, Sergeant Major, for being here. And thank you guys all for watching. That's it for today. Keep watching. We've got many more episodes to go. We're very excited. Congressman Warren Davison is going to join us in our next episode to finish it up in our finale. He's going to help give us awards to people that helped us out in our library mission. Until next time, thank you guys very much. And thank you again, Sergeant Major.
Thank you, Sergeant. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Please visit us on our social media sites. Please consider contributing to our mission in some way. Also, we are always looking for veterans and their families to share their stories with us. Be sure to join us next week for our next episode of Never Stop Serving.